Hey, my name is Carey Green, and I am with podcastfasttrack.com. And my company produces show notes and audio for successful podcasters. Now, the reason that's important is because I deal with iTunes and podcasters and posting of podcasts all day, every day. And I notice things that podcasters are doing that aren't exactly the best practices. And so in this video, I want to show you some things I notice when I go through iTunes doing marketing and things like that about titles, about episode titles, the way that people format their things, because they're not thinking in terms of someone finding their podcast. They're just thinking of how they want it to be labeled, how they want it to look, all that. That's the wrong thing to think. You've got to think about SEO, which is search engine optimization. And iTunes, for one, and Stitcher are SEO engines. People search using keywords. So you want to name things according to those keywords. So let's get rid of me on the video and show you here real quickly some of the mistakes I see made quite often. Okay, I've blurred out some of this because I don't want to really incriminate anybody, but the issue right here. See, this is not too bad, but this SOH026, I understand you want to keep track of your episodes, but you don't need that at the front. I mean, the front is like prime real estate, because when this shows in a podcast player, you don't want it to show episode 26. You want it to show job interview tip, but the podcast player may cut it off right there because it may not have a very wide field to show. So that's the kind of thing you need to be aware of when you're making these kinds of things. Let's go on and look at another one. Okay, on this one, same thing. You see, it's got the episode number at the front. If you insist on having an episode number, which you don't really need to have anymore, because most pod players will order them according to the date they were published or according to the track number that's in the tags, so you don't really need to worry about it for ordering purposes. But if you're doing it just so you can keep track of it, put that episode number toward the back. That's my recommendation. Let's take a look at another one. Okay, now let's look at this one. Again, the episode thing at the front, but also some of these titles are just way too short, like Lecrae. Now, I get Lecrae as a popular rapper in the Christian niche, but that may not be enough to get you good podcast SEO on iTunes. I mean, how many people are going to be in iTunes searching for Lecrae? You need to put some keywords in there that you think people will be searching for. Rap artist, hip-hop music, things like that, and make it appealing so that people want to listen. In addition, like here, Jenny Allen. I'm sure Jenny Allen is a wonderful person, but that's not going to get anybody excited about listening to this episode. You need to say something about Jenny. You need to say who she is, what she's doing, why it's important. You need to use keywords people might be searching for in iTunes or Stitcher. Let's look at another one. Okay, now this one is a little different, but notice it's using dates at the beginning. Again, you don't need the dates. iTunes and Stitcher are going to order it according to the way that you publish these, the order you publish them in. So forget the dates. You're wasting valuable real estate on your keywords there. All right, now like this. Oh my goodness. The same thing in all the titles. Man, you're wasting so much opportunity on a thing like this. Instead, you should put a title that draws in, like over here in this description field. Maybe those are more appropriate for the title, because that'll not only draw a listener to listen, it'll also get more SEO juice because it's in the title tag. Let's look at one more. Okay, now here I want to show you an example of how I think it's done right. Okay, now this is Yarrow Starek. He's been around the internet realm forever, doing great work, and Yarrow's somebody I work with on occasion. Now notice, he puts the guest's name very first. Okay, great use, because people may be searching for the guest's name. Secondly, he's using keywords, blogging about the rise of ride-sharing, Uber, Lyft. See, all the keywords that are stuffed in here, and he doesn't worry about episode numbers. This is a great example to follow. So think in terms of keywords. And now one last thing. Let me give you just one quick little tip about how you make sure this is right in iTunes and in Stitcher. You've got to know where iTunes and Stitcher are pulling your podcast feed from. Is it your website? Is it your media host? Is it FeedBurner? Wherever that is where iTunes is going to pull these titles from. So let's say it's on your blog and you're using the PowerPress plugin, for example. You need to make sure your blog post titles are according to these standards that I was showing you. If it's from your media host, you need to make sure your media host titles are according to these standards that you're learning here. because that's where iTunes and Stitcher are going to pull your information from. So make sure that you're placing those titles in the right place. And that way you're optimizing every episode of your podcast for better search. Hey, if you need podcast production, editing, show notes, maybe even some promotion and lead captures type stuff, let me know. Podcastfasttrack.com.